go. Good morning, Friday morning. And let's get set up here. I'm taking the microphone with me so you can hear me. There we go. Maybe a little bit out to the side so I don't bump into it when I'm moving. And here we are finding our chairs. So let's come to neutral position, that's what we call it. Sitting to the very edge of our chairs, not to the point that you don't feel stable and you're almost like falling anytime that you move slightly. So you want to still have your sit bones well connected to the chair and well supported. But right behind that edge point where you do feel that you're going to tilt forward somehow if you move a little bit too much, because you want to have plenty of room behind you, you want to have plenty of room underneath your legs. And that's the best position here also to remind you of sitting straight. It's a lot harder to, or let's say, is not as spontaneous and natural to round and do this when you're at the edge of the chair versus when you're at the back of the chair and you're just sloping into the back of the chair completely like couch potato like. So here it reminds you, with the freedom you have in your back and being right, feeling that the tip of that edge of the chair is nearby, it reminds you to stay checked in and feeling that connection to the sit bones, so that from there your spine can reach a little taller, find its natural curves, and bring good posture for everything else to function properly or to function better. And then bring your feet hip distance apart, and you want to bring your ankles underneath your knees, meaning that if you see your feet fully, they're probably too far forward. If you see all your toes, they're probably too far forward. Usually when you're in this position where your ankles are right underneath the knees, you should be seeing your big toe and maybe your second toe. Maybe, depending on how long your toes are, you might see the tip of the third toe, but nothing else. And then if you don't see any of it, probably your feet are too far in toward the chair. So you want to have the ankles right underneath the knees that bring the shin bones, here, the low leg bone, perpendicular to the floor. And that gives you that full surface of support on your feet. Hands on top of the thigh, we relax the shoulders, the elbows naturally bend a little bit and relax to the side of the body. And we close the eyes here. And the very first and foremost and most important component of this class that is closely linked to the mindful aspect of it is your breath. So capture your breath. Notice where your breath is, how your breath is moving and flowing. If your breath is slightly misbehaving and being choppy and not quite fully present but a little restricted. And observe all those different movements of breath, from where you feel it first, and your first sensation of the breath might be for you in the chest, or maybe you feel it in your nostrils, or going down the throat, or maybe some of you feel it already in the belly. So wherever you feel your breath, you start from that point, and then you start following the breath, the path of the breath, the length of the breath, the rhythm of the breath. And not that you're doing anything to change it, you're just watching it. And the breath has a lot to tell us. A shallow breath, a restricted breath, compromised breath is usually a signal that something is going on either in your physical body or your emotional body. Meaning, if you're stressed out and you have a lot of emotions running through you, a lot of stressors, triggering you, then the breath will change. If you're thinking a lot and you're just like ruminating thoughts or being overwhelmed with the amount of things you have on your to-do list, then it affects the breath. if you have discomfort and pain in your body, it affects the breath. So the breath, as you observe it, is a great instrument to have an assessment of your state of being in any moment. And then the beautiful thing about observing it and watching it is that as soon as it's being seen and heard, it starts shifting and usually relaxing a little bit, lengthening. And this is also on the flip side of the coin what is needed for the body to relax and follow the relaxing of the breath, for the mind to settle a little bit as it follows deep long breath, for the emotion to soften a little bit as the breath becomes bigger and deeper. So it has benefits all 360-degree around, 100% benefits. So watch the breath now, how it expresses it into the body, meaning how you can tap into different parts of your body and what your body has to tell you as you follow your breath in and follow the breath out. And first you'll feel the different parts of the body directly linked to the passage of breath, meaning how you feel around the chest, around the rib cage, down around the belly. So it's all of a torso first perspective. And then beyond that, start feeling your arms, your legs, your extremities. Feel what's going on around your head, inside your head. And assessing the mapping of your body, of what's going on this morning with you. From, again, the physical body, which is the most tangible thing here, right? But also acknowledging whatever might be happening in your head, or again, how you're feeling emotionally. And then connect from the body and the breath to the floor. And the floor, let's call it the ground in this case, or the earth. And you have two surfaces of support that give you access to that grounding effect and to the support from which you can bounce into moving. So one of them is the feet in contact with the floor. And so feel your feet here. Maybe you move your feet a little bit. You really connect to this opposite end of the body. And I'm saying opposite from the perspective of the head, where we're all living in most of the day. And then notice next your sit bones and how the sit bones are in relationship to your chair. And maybe also you can move around a little bit around the sit bones. Maybe you tilt your hips forward and back, sideways. Find a way to be more firmly established into your sit bones, onto your chair. And now take 2 or 3 breaths where you imagine, obviously this is not the regular path of the breath, so you have to somehow imagine, visualize, or sense that the breath in is coming from your feet, from the earth, up through the legs, up through the torso, filling all the way up to the top of the head. And then you're so full of that breath that the exhale is a cascading down from the head, outpouring down through the body, down through the legs, down back into the earth. So take 2 more, inhaling through your feet up, and maybe that inhale is more of an internal movement, going from the feet through your bones, through the muscles, through the center line of the torso, through the neck, into the head. And then the outpouring, the out breath may come out like a spring out of the crown of the head and cascades down through more of the outer part of the body, like the surface, the skin, washing off and releasing back down into the earth. So now maybe you have an experience of your body being a little more present, more full, more complete, more together. And let's open the eyes gently. And we're gonna start actually with the eyes. So you're gonna look up and down, roll your eyes down and up, and do it maybe like 5 to 7 times at your own pace. Nothing else is moving, just your eyes. And then bring your eyes back to center, to soft gaze, and then you're gonna look from right to left. So now you're rolling your eyes from right to left. And again, do it about 5 or 7 times. Obviously 5, 7 times on both sides, right? If 5 times to the right, 5 times to the left, as you alternate from eye to eye and directions. And then bring your eyes back to center, and then you're gonna look down again, look out to the left, look up, look to the right, and down again. And then roll out to the left, up, to the right, and down. One more, to the left, up, to the right, and down. And let's switch. Now from down you look out to the right, up, to the left, and down, to the right, up, to the left, and down, to the right, up, left, and down. And bring your eyes back to center. And now visualize, or look at actually, because you have it right there, the tip of your nose. Don't cross your eyes too much, but it's a soft gaze to see the tip of your nose. And from the tip of the nose, you're going to trace circles in front of you. And you keep your eyes into the field of the tip of the nose, tracing a circle in front of you. So you're not looking at me on the screen. You're looking right at the space to the tip of the nose. And the circles don't need to be big. They can be tiny or medium range, where you feel not only the circle to the tip of the nose that you're visualizing, but you start feeling also that rotation to the base of the skull, into the neck, around your head, around your face. You relax your jaw and your tongue. And take 2 more circles here, and then bring the nose back to center. And then let's roll the circles the opposite direction. If you don't quite remember which direction, or you're trying to think, did I do right, left, this way or that way, start circling again. If it feels very easy, then try to shift to the opposite way. If it feels awkward, then you're in the right place. It takes a few rounds to find a little more comfort into your unfamiliar rolling, because we always tend to roll or to move from what we know best. And a couple more rolls here. And back to center. Turn your head out to the right shoulder. And swing your head out to the left shoulder. And we're going to do this a few more times, turning the head gentle and easy from right to left, left to right. Remember to breathe. If anything, if you lose your breath, make breath a priority, even if that means that you stop the movement you're doing to be able to capture your breath back. And then once you have it back, then go back into the movement and try not to lose the breath again. A couple more from side to side. Then back to center. And you're gonna bring your right hand to your right cheekbone and press your head against your hand and your hand against your head. Hold it for just a few seconds here. And then release your hand and turn your head out to the right immediately. See if you have a little deeper range of motion here. And then bring your head back to center. Same on the other side, left hand to the left cheekbone. And you're pressing your head against your hand and your hand against your head. Stay here for a few more seconds. And then release your hand and turn your head out to the left. And bring your head back to center. And then you're gonna bring your left hand to the outside of the right, to the right side of the head. And hopefully you can all reach here. And you're gonna now, the hand is gonna wanna pull the head to the left, and the head is gonna wanna go to the right. So you find that traction again here. Release your hand and tilt your head out to the right shoulder. And then bring your head back up, switch. Right hand goes from the top of the head to grab the outside of the head to the left. And then pull with your right hand, push with the head to the left. And then release your hand and tilt your head out to the left. Bringing your head back to center. And let's do this movement of tilting from side to side a few times with no propping, no head involved, just gentle and nice. Right to left, left to right. And back to center. Bring your shoulders up and curl your shoulders forward a little bit. Your chin goes down a tiny bit. And then roll the shoulders back and down and chin up. Then roll the shoulders up and forward, hug in, chin down. Roll the shoulders back and down, chin up. I'm going to go sideways so you can see the movement of the shoulders a little more clearly here. So I'm lifting the shoulders to the ears and closing them in as I'm dropping the chin down. There's a little bit of a rounding to the upper back. And then rolling the shoulders back, open the chest, lift the chin up. 2 more. Shoulders up, roll the shoulders forward, chin down. Roll the shoulders back and down, lift the chin up. And last, roll the shoulders up and forward, chin down. Roll the shoulders back and down, chin up. And bring your head back to center. Realign back to center. Bringing your right hand on top of the right shoulder. Elbow bend to the side. And we're going to rotate the elbow, keeping the connection, if you can, of your fingertips with the right shoulder. Roll, expand, reach. Reach back, down, forward, and maybe even across a little bit. So instead of being a straight line forward, when you bring it forward, cross to the left a little bit and out and back to the right. And now we're going to use the same movement but with the arm. So you're releasing your arm and hand forward, across, up, back, and down. And forward, across, up, back, and down. 1 more. And release. Right hand to the leg. Feel how the right shoulder is doing right now versus the left shoulder. Not a hard compare of judging it, but just feeling that and noticing that it's different. And then left hand on top of the left shoulder, just the fingertips. Drop the fingertips as the elbow bends. And then let's start the rotation on this side. So you start nice and easy, small range of motion, small circles, because we're in the warm-up phase of it. And then as your shoulder opens up and feels a little looser, then you can go wider in the range of motion, including that you start crossing maybe the elbow to the right when you swing the arm forward, and you reach far back, opening and stretching the left side of the chest as you roll the elbow back and down. 2 more. Then next time you're coming forward, stretch the arm across to the right, swing it up, back and down. And do your best here. If you're really limited in the range of motion of your shoulders, then your arm might not do this, but stays right here. And that's okay, that's still movement of the shoulder. Go to your own range and of possibilities. And one last. And release, take a pause here, take a breath or two, feeling both shoulders now. Deep inhale and exhale. Then bringing your right arm forward and swing it across to the left. Capture or catch the right arm with your left arm as you wrap your left arm under past the elbow if you can. If you cannot get it that close, it can go before the elbow, but not on the elbow. Don't push on the elbow joint, okay? Right past the elbow joint, upper on your arm or lower on your arm. And you're gonna bring the arm across to the left and kind of snuggle it in and squeeze it in. And then turn your head from right to left 3 times. And 3rd time. And back to center. And gently release, arms down. Shake them out to the side. And let's go for the other side. Left arm up. Bring it across to the right. Wrap your right arm either past the elbow to the upper part of the arm or lower. And squeeze in. Feel the stretch from the upper arm into the shoulder and shoulder blade. And then turn your head gently from side to side 3 times. And 3rd. And back to center. Releasing the arm. Shake them out. And relax here for just a bit. Take a breath in and a breath out. Hands together, clasp the fingers, rotate your palms out, stretch the fingers and the palms, and then reach up. Stretch the spine, press down into the sit bones. And then as you're going to bring your arms forward, I'm going to go sideways here. You're going to round your back. And then press back up, lift, extend and reach. And exhale, round, curl the tailbone under, roll your hips back, stretch and round. Inhale, lengthen up, roll your hips forward. So now you're synchronizing the movement of the arms, the shoulders, and the hips. And not the least, the breath is moving here from one movement of the breath in one movement of the body to the opposite movement of the breath and to the opposite action of the body. See if you're able to increase your range of motion here, especially into the shoulders, but also in your spine, from tiny bitty rolling and rounding to a deeper rounding and arching. And last one. And back to neutral. Release your hands. Shake your hands and fingers out. And relax. Hands back down to the legs. Feel the different sensation through the torso. Extending your right foot forward. Flex the foot and give a few rotations to the ankle, just to activate the feet and the legs here. And then reverse. And then back to neutral, where you're gonna bring your foot down. So you're not moving the foot anymore, you're anchoring the foot down as much as you can, because maybe some of you are not able to push the foot all the way flat down. So keep on reaching to whichever degree that you can and anchor the heel down in that case. If you're able to bring your foot flat on the floor, ground all the way to the toes. And then lift your left arm up and stretch opposite direction from your toes reaching forward and down to your arm and fingers reaching up. Again, if your arm doesn't reach the level of the ear like mine does, it can be forward here, whichever level that your shoulder allows, but get that extension through the arm as well as into the leg. Opposite directions. And then you're gonna bring your left arm forward and back as you flex your right foot. So your hand, your palm is facing back, and then you're pushing back in a way. And then pointing your toes or placing your foot flat on the floor, lift the arm up, and then flex the foot and swing the arm back. And let's do this a few more times. Stretching up and pointing, flexing and swinging back. One more. And keep your foot flexed. Relax your left hand on top of the left leg and slide your right hand up and down the leg as if you were brushing with your fingertips some paint. You're painting your leg. You can even do it, that's an interesting experiment here, instead of sliding up and down like this in the same position, you're gonna brush with the back of your fingers down and brush with the tip of the fingers up, and back of the fingers down and fingertips as you come up. One more, brush it down and softly brush it up and stay. Slide your right foot back in, realign to your neutral position here with your feet hip distance apart and parallel, and let's reach out with the left leg and left foot forward. Anchor your heels, start rotating your left ankle a few times in one direction. Turning the switch on this leg, and then reverse opposite direction. And back to stillness. Extend your foot down and see if you can plant the whole foot down all the way to the toes, or do your best to aim to that point, and then reach up with your right arm and stretch. Pull and stretch. Here it's a diagonal stretch because we're using opposite leg and arm. So feel that line of stretch from your fingertips and the palm of the right hand through the arm, and then from the shoulder across down to the left hip, and then down through the left leg. Your left leg is pushing down and forward, your right arm is reaching up and even maybe a little slightly back if that's available for you. Press down into the right foot a little bit to stabilize. And now let's go in that movement where you're flexing your left foot this time, swinging your right arm down and back, and then point the foot and lift your arm up. Inhaling here, exhaling, flex the foot, swing your arm back. Inhale, point and lift. Exhale, flex, swing back. Inhale, point and lift. One more, flex, swing back. And stay with the foot flex. Right hand now lands on your right leg, and you're gonna brush your hand down and up. When you go down, you flip your fingers and brush through the back of the fingers, and then you brush up through the fingertips. Brush down through the back of the fingers, brush up through your fingertips. And here you're using your right hand as a support and a levy here to push you up and to assist you as going down, bending the elbow. Couple more. Brush up and down. And come back up. Slide your left foot back to the parallel position with the right foot. And we're gonna anchor the left hand on top of the left knee. Grab the right knee with the right hand, and you're gonna swing and open your right leg only. So we're gonna do one leg at a time here. So you should feel really steady and supported here because you're pressing actively down with your left hand down into the left leg and foot. And therefore the torso also is stable and steady in its position. And you're just using your right hand and arm to open and close the right leg. You're rolling from the inner foot to the outer foot. Your leg should be nice and loose. The movement comes from the action of the arm and hand, not through the muscular action of the leg. Next time you're opening your leg out, stay here. You're on the outer edge of the foot. Your leg is open. You switch your right hand to the inside of the leg, a little, not right onto the knee, just a little higher, right above the knee to the inner leg. And you're going to press out. You push down into your left hand and you press out into the right hand. And you should feel the stretch all the way into your right inner hip here. And breathe. And then catch the knee again with your right hand. Roll it back in. Bring yourself back to feet parallel, hip distance apart, and come back to sitting up. Take a moment here. Feel sensations into your right leg and right hip. And let's switch. Bring your right hand on top of the right knee. Shift your weight forward a little bit so you're tilting from the hips here. Grab your left knee with your left hand and start rolling that left leg from opening and closing. Rolling from the outer edge of the foot to the inner edge of the foot. Woo, I heard a crack here in my left hip. And maybe some of you are experiencing that little cracks here and there, releasing some air pockets. And a few more here, nice and loose. My leg is not resisting at all. All the effort comes from my hand and arm. It's like a ragdoll leg. And next time you're opening your leg out, stay here. Then move your left hand up right above the level of the knee into the inner thigh. And then push away and out here. Until you start feeling that stretch to the inner thigh and inner hip. And breathe. Make sure that you're secured into the weight shifted onto the right hand and leg, that you're not rounding back here. That's first of all a lot more challenging to put weight into pressing the leg to the side, but it's also compromising your breathing because you're collapsing your lungs here. So extend forward, tilt your hips forward, so you have now plenty of room not only to have the weight to stretch the leg out, but to breathe fully into your lungs. And then guide the leg to come back in, walk your way back up. And let's rock the feet from going up onto the toes to rocking back onto the heels, flexing the ankle and stretching the ankle. Both feet at the same time. And then come up to the ball of the feet and roll the ankles up here. And then allow the knees to roll along. So when you focus just on the ankles, the knees are barely moving. And then you invite the knees to move and they're open and close. And we're going to go up and reverse. Ankles first, rolling in. The knees are barely moving. And then invite the knees and they're opening and closing in circles as well as the ankles. And back to center, left and release. Tap the ball of the feet. So you're on your heels and you tap up and down. So you're barely moving, lifting the feet just enough to tap them down again. And feel that tapping rising through the low legs. And then 1 foot at a time. Tap the right, tap the left, tap the right, tap the left, tap the right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left, right, left. Couple more. And release. Now you're going to lift foot and knee, right, left. And see how heavy it might be at first when you're not paying attention to anything else but the feet lifting and the knees. Stop and then sit up, press into the left foot, lift the right foot, press into the right foot, lift the left foot. And now feel the hips. So from being straight to the front, if you're trying to lift here, even engaging the pressing into 1 foot at a time and lifting, it's less heavy and requires less effort than when you're not paying attention to anything and doing this. But now we're going to go into, when you're pressing into the left foot, you're rolling your right hip back a little bit. So there's a little bit of a tilt to the right to give room and power and strength to the right leg to lift. Then lower the leg, hips and shoulders come back to center, press into the right foot, left hip goes back and you lift your left knee up. And down, press into the left foot, squeeze right hip back, lift the knee up. And let's go for another few like this where you're engaging the hips. So the hips are doing this. They're here and they do this, right? Instead of staying to the front and trying to lift the legs from here. So let's start by pressing into the right foot. My left hip goes back and my knee lifts. And then hips come forward, pressing into the left foot. My right hip goes back and my right knee goes up. And let's do this a few more times. If you were to put your arms the same position than mine are, like lifting up in front of you, and you're following that movement because you're allowing the shoulders to go along with the hips. So now you have a visual. What you cannot see from here in your own body of what the hips are doing, you can have a visual of the hands not being in the same alignment when you're lifting the knee up and your hip is going back. And now we're going to enhance this movement by extending the arm. The one that is going further forward, or that is forward compared to the other one, you're going to extend it a little bit more. And the one that is coming in, you're going to bend it a little bit more. And now you have a wider range of motion also in your twisting. Hip, shoulders, head, lifting of the leg. And a couple more here in full motion. And last one on each side. Go long, hold it maybe a little bit. And back to center and relax down. Give a little love to your hips with a little rolling of the hips forward and back. And back to center. To bring your hand on top of your knees, rock the hips forward, squeeze the pelvis, squeeze the belly, shift the weight and lift up. And let's go behind the chairs. Your chairs are staying in front of you. I'm just turning mine. I'm just reminding this because I never know if there's new people in the class and they might just mimic what I'm doing and moving the chair around. Your chair stays in front, facing the front. I'm just moving around so you can see what I'm doing behind the chair. Bring your feet hip distance apart. Look down and make sure your feet are actually hip distance apart, that they're not here, that there's not one leg opening to the side like this versus the other one straight forward. So bring feet hip distance apart and parallel. And even you look down and see if instead of being completely parallel from the inner arches and inner edges of the feet, then bring the toes slightly, very slightly in, so that there's more of the alignment of the outer part of the feet. And let's do this a couple more times. Open your toes out to bring the inner thigh, inner hips, inner feet parallel, and feel from the front of the hips here and the thigh into the low back, the positioning of this whole part of your body, of the pelvis. And then look down and turn your toes slightly in, and notice the effect to the front of the upper thigh, to the inner thigh, and low back. And it's not a huge sensation, especially if you're not familiar with it, you haven't really paid attention to how that works, then you might be like, I don't get it. Let's do it again. Open your toes a little bit out and bring the inner feet parallel, and then turn your toes slightly in, the same amount, the same angle from right to left, and feel the sensation to the front, the back of the legs, around the legs. So here, hopefully you got a sensation at least that it feels different, that you don't quite know why it feels different, but that it feels different. So here, when the feet are parallel from the inside, there's a tendency of a collapsing here, that your hips will swing forward, are in a position that they can swing forward, and you kind of collapse here and round your back like this, which is something that we see often. The chin goes forward and you're like this, right? And it's even more pronounced when your toes are out like this. Then even more there's a collapsing in and forward, and you're in this really bad posture. I'm sure that you've seen people, if you don't see yourself doing it, because it's hard to see yourself doing it, but I'm sure you see people like that. So now you bring it to parallel. It's a little less than this, but there's still space to do that. But now bring the toes slightly in, and this part of the upper hips shifts back, and now you have a broadening effect onto your low back. And there's also more activity, like more activation, sensation along the legs. Feels like your inner legs are rotating in, and they actually are, and that opens some spaciousness here across on the sides of the hips, and there's no room for you to collapse like this easily. If you are to push your hips forward, you'll feel a pinching right away into your low back. So that's a good preventive mode on one end, but also a good way to activate your legs and make them work. Hands to the chair. So keep your toes slightly in. So I'm not saying that you go pigeon toes in completely, right? Just a little bit, just to find that activation. And then once you found it, we're going to swing the hips a little bit from side to side. Straight from right to left, shifting your weight from one foot to the other foot. Back to center. And you're going to bend left knee and bring your left hip forward and right hip back. And then come forward, right knee bends, and left hip goes back, right hip forward. And you're going to do this little movement of the hips as you're bending your knees forward and back. If you have some hip issues here, be mindful, and you can go into micro movement of this. Instead of bending really deep the knees, just a micro bend to get the little swaying of the hips forward and back. And your hands are on the chair, but now add the shoulders. So I'm bending my right knee, my right hip goes forward, and I'm tweaking my left shoulder toward the right a little bit. And then I do the opposite here. So when I'm bending the left knee, I'm bringing that right shoulder forward. And so that's in a twist here, that the waistline is twisting out to one side and the hips are twisting out to the other side. Come back to center, bend the right knee again, and now you go the opposite, so the shoulders are going along with the hips. And you sway like this. And maybe you're able to go into a deeper range of motion as you bend a little deeper into the knee if that's available. Back to center, let's go the opposite route again. Bend the left knee, right shoulder forward. Bend the right knee, right hip forward, left shoulder to the right. Like this. So you're trying to keep the shoulders actually squared to the front and a little over to the opposite direction of the hips to get into a twist. And back to neutral. Hands to the chair. Same position here. Soft knees. You're going to roll your hips around. Nice and loose, so that's why also your knees need to be bent a little bit, so stiff legs do not allow much motion in the hips, or it's a lot more challenging. You want everything to be nice and loose here. And back to center and reverse. Back to center, shift your weight to your left foot. Don't collapse. Grow taller as you shift to the left foot. And then reach back with your right foot in that straight line. Don't cross the foot over, neither open it out. Straight hip alignment line. And then bring yourself to the ball of the foot and the toes and try to go forward and back as far as you can, meaning a lot of you, and you might maybe make the step a little closer in. If your toes are not able to bend a lot, like mine are, then you bring the foot a little closer, still behind, but a little closer, and you go from lifting and lowering the heel, and I'm not lowering the heel all the way down, I'm pushing and pressing forward and back. If your toes are bendy, then you go further back. Soft bend into the front knee. And let's go just a few more, pumping the blood circulation through the right leg and lubricating the left knee joint as you go in and out a little bit of the bend. And then next time you're bending the front knee, you lower the back heel all the way down. If you're right here, make sure that you readjust. If you have a little more room to play with, you can slide the foot a little further back, drop the heel, back leg is straight. And you're gonna give a little pulse here, very tiny, where your hips are going in, forward and out and back. Just a little bit. And you'll feel that pulse down to your right calf. Make sure your left knee, you're not bending that much. You're not going like this. It's a tiny like bouncing in the hips. And then stay in place and breathe, press into your hands, lift the chest up. And then soften the stretch. Push down into the left foot, shift your weight forward, release the right foot parallel to the left. Give a little sway to the hips here from side to side. And let's shift sides. Shift your weight onto your right foot. Tall and nice here. Step back your left foot. Find the right distance depending on the bending of your toes. Find that anchor of the toe that's going to determine how deep you can bend them or not. And then adjust as you need. If your toes cannot bend much, you bring your foot a little closer in. If your toes are stretchy, you bring the foot a little further back. And then again, you're gonna rock forward and back through the ball of the foot, lowering the heel not all the way down, bouncing back up and forward. If you're closer in, that might be the movement, smaller. Still away from the front foot. Don't lock the front knee. Keep it nice and with a tiny bend. And next time that your heel goes down, now lock it down. And then pulse a little bit with the hips, forward and back, tiny bit. Little pulse around the hips. And breathe. Couple more. And stay. Stay in the stretch. Press into your hands. Stretch the torso up. Feel the pull from the inner hips, between the pubic bone and the hips, and the low ribs, lifting and stretching up. Take a breath or two here. Press down into your hands, down into the chair. Lengthen through the back leg. Feel it into the left calf. And then soften. Shift your weight to your right foot. Step forward. Last sway of the hips from side to side. Then release your hands to the side. Maybe you step back just a little bit so you're not bumping into the chair. Make sure you're stable first. And then we're gonna swing the arms from side to side. Bounce the arms against the body from the front of the hip to the low back. You're tapping, swaying. Your head is following, the shoulders are following. Couple more. And back to center. Don't stop all at once, kind of make it smaller and easier. And let's go back to sitting on our chairs. Again, find yourself right at the edge of the chair, feet hip distance apart and parallel, hands on top of the legs. Close your eyes. And find the breath. Notice all spectrum of sensations in your body. Maybe somewhere there's a tingling. Somewhere else there's an itching. Somewhere else you feel hotter than other parts. Somewhere else you feel cooler. Notice if there are areas in your body that feel deeply relaxed versus maybe a few areas, hopefully it's just a few or none, that feel tense and tight. If you know already your spots of tightness and where you tend to hold tension, then check in with those spots and notice if there's a little bit of a softening there, if it feels a little more loose and relaxed than usual. And then feel the quality of your breath. Notice if your breath has increased or enhanced itself in depth, completeness, fullness, expansion, that you're able to release more breath out and welcome more breath in, or if it's still pretty shallow, to locate it to the upper chest. Let the shoulders drop and relax away from the ears, a little softer. And let's do a little body scan, not too deep, because we're almost to the end of the class here. But let's start with the feet and feel the feet touching the ground. Feel their weight. Then feel your ankles, your shins and your calves, your knees, your thigh, top of the thigh, sides and back of the thighs. And feel the hands resting on your thigh and maybe the sensation of warmth that comes out of your hands into your thigh. Then feel from your hands, your low arms, your elbows, upper arms, into the shoulders. Feel your chest. Feel your belly. Feel your pelvis that you're sitting on, the space between hips, pubic bone, and tailbone. Feel your hips right and left, front and back. Feel your low back, sacrum, and the flat bones on each side of the sacrum, the sacroiliac joints. Access the tailbone. Feel your tailbone, and from the tailbone follow your spine up to the base of the neck. Feel the right side of the back, so to the right side of the spine, the shoulder blade, the different muscles, long, strong muscles to the back down to the low back on the right side. Then feel the left side of the spine, shoulder blade, all those wonderful muscles on top of the rib cage and down to the low back. Feel your breath into the center of the chest, expanding into the rib cage out, front, sides, and back. And relaxing in on the breath out. Feel your neck and throat. Feel your head to the back of the head, scalp and skull, to the top of the head, onto your face, forehead, eyebrows, eyes, cheek, nose, mouth, chin, ears to the side. And now try to feel all the body at once, the whole body. The whole body as one organism, one colony, one big community. So much happening in our bodies. So many cells, so many enzymes, so many muscles, so many things that are happening and working together at any given time. A lot of bacteria, hopefully a lot of good bacteria in your body, and all mingling, working, coexisting, and co-creating. So try to connect to the whole tapestry of your body, from breath to flesh. And then let's rub the hands together. Bring your hands over your eyes. Feel the warmth. And if you have room for it, open your eyes inside your palms so your hands are cupping over your eyes, right? They're not pushing into the eyeballs. And feel, you can still feel with your eyes opening and closing here, the warmth not going straight into your eyeballs. Radiating warmth. And when you're ready, gently start releasing your hands down, opening your eyes to light and coolness. You realize here as you lower your hands down after having your eyes open into your hands that the air in the room feels a lot cooler on your eyes. And here we are back together, ready to close this session today.